welcome to another episode of RGDS, your retro gaming discussion show. Yes, it's your host, Paul Driscoll, aka The Drisk, and joining me is the Yakmeister himself. Yes, it's Richard Yaxley. How are you, buddy? How are you?
Hello, mate. How you doing? Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Good to be on this one with you.
That's good. Yeah, no, it's great having you on, back on the shows again. It was a real blast, the last one, wasn't it? And very popular with our listeners, the piracy.
Yeah, that was a good. Was a good episode, man. Lots of fun memories coming back from that one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just great, having you come back and having some of these memories again. So welcome back, and I know you've been missed by both us and your listeners. So
I've been too busy playing Warden, mate. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah. Now, talking of dodgy games, what we thought we'd do, we thought we'd throw some more Amiga love with another episode. And to our listeners, it's ages ago, you might not remember, but we did one called X-Copy Dat Floppy. And this is volume 2. We thought it'd be great to go back to it. And it's basically what we do on this is it's kind of like a made-up compilation that we choose, isn't it? It's like we choose 6 games on the Amiga that we, one of us that really loves, and it's kind of like that imaginary game compilation, or even imaginary saying to your mates, "Hey, here's 6 games that I think you'll enjoy," isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
And we do try to go off the beaten path. But what we thought we'd do with Volume 2, we thought we would pass this honour to Ric to choose the 6 games, so he can choose the ones. And, the Wardener lover here has certainly chosen some unique and interesting takes in the games.
Yeah, for sure. I've tried to go for some sort of what would you call it? Not like
I could say a few words.
Not A-list games, or some of them are, but like they're more sort of like there might be hidden gems, they might not be, that sort of thing.
They could be. Yeah. One man's A-list is another man's trash, as they say. No, I'm only joshing. Right, okay. So, but before we go into these, rather strange and eclectic choices of Ric, let's talk about what we've been up to. So, Ric, I know it's not been that long, but have you been up to any more stuff on Retro-wise, or?
I'll tell you what I did do. I did check out Ant Stream.
On the Xbox? Or?
No, on the PC, just to give it a try, because I like listening to when you was talking about it. I can't remember which episode it was. I think it might have been the Halloween one or something that you was talking about it on now. I thought I'd give it a go. And I've had mixed results on the PC. I think it doesn't help that I've got Wi-Fi at the moment, because I haven't really got a proper LAN set up.
To be honest, PCs I don't think is very good.
No.
It's not there, but do you have an Xbox, by the way?
I have, but it's in a box at the moment.
Okay. Because the reason the Xbox is like so above the PC version is because it's been allowed to be on the Xbox cloud.
That's right, yeah. It's using the cloud servers and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's using really, really good, which is what you need.
Yeah.
So consequently, personally, I've not had any problems with it on the Xbox, so that's why I'm quite a big fan of it.
Oh, that's good then.
Yeah. The trouble is, though, for whatever reason, Namco. So a lot of the games are Namco games that are on the PC. They're not allowed on the Xbox, I guess, because you get those shitty Namco compilations that they don't want. People having other ways of getting at these games.
Oh, that's a bit of a pain, isn't it?
It is a bit of a pain, because there's some like Gallagher. You got Gaplus and Gallagher and Splatterhouse. Some really great, good ones. Yeah. But hey ho, it is. It's a great library. I love diving into it, particularly on the challenges. But at the moment, for me, I've been struggling with time, just general, or I'm going through one of those phases where when you can't be asked to play video games, you're too tired, you're too shagged out.
Yeah, I've been going through that a bit actually as well. I've been pretty much the only, apart from having a little check out of Ant Stream there. I've literally just been playing the games for this show, and I have actually got hooked on a couple of them, to be fair. But there you go.
Oh, that's cool. No, I've been probably going through more of it's not really retro, but I've been going through a movie blip of you can simulate a whole cinema on the VR.
Oh yeah. Is that because didn't you get a new VR headset?
Yeah, that's it. So I got the Quest 2. Yeah,
that's
so so it's really cool actually. Just a part of it's just having another screen. You can because I can like lie in bed and be watching Marvel or whatever, or like a classic film on a big screen. It's really, really awesome. And even better, I've been playing around because of course you can do 3D movies. And it works really, really well. So I've been playing around with that. I've done things like Ready Player One and Dune and stuff like that.
I bet Ready Player One's pretty good.
It's brilliant in 3D. Yeah. And to be honest, they're all really, really good. I mean, I watched quite a few, but the it has got me wondering. I might pick up a 3D portable Blu-ray player. And make a little collection of 3D movies, because that would be awesome to have like true Blu-ray quality running through.
Yeah, sure. Can you connect that up? Could you connect that up to the Quest then?
Yeah, so like big screen, and there's a paid one which is called Virtual Desktop. And that is awesome, because basically both of those you can put a little application on your PC and it just streams.
Right.
Yeah. Really, really good. So at the moment I'm doing downloads, but of course you never get quite the same level of quality.
No,
but it's really good because of course you get all the classic ones. I mean, going more retro, you get Nightmare on Elm Street. They've turned that into 3D, and Back to the Future, and Superman, the first Superman and stuff. So
didn't they do Predator in 3D as well?
Predator as well. Yeah. So there's loads out there. I'm having a blast with that, really.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Any more you want to say before we go on to the show itself?
No, mate. Let's open that disc box and get cracking.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, this is X-Copy Dat Floppy Volume 2, and Ric has chosen 6 games. Do you notice I'm putting all the emphasis on you?
Oh, you certainly are, mate.
I want no doubts there.
There's 6 Wardeners on this
6
list.
orders, yeah. 6 games that Ric loves. They're all quite good in their own way. And let's see the ones he's going to recommend to us. Right, okay, so the first one is Weird Dreams. It was released in 1989 and it was published by Rainbird in Europe. That's how we tended to remember it, but also Microplay did it. It was originally a PC DOS game, and then it came to the Atari ST and Amiga. And there was also a C64 version. So as you chose it, Ric, do you want to give a sort of synopsis on what the game's about to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So basically you've got this guy who's kind of trapped in his own nightmares, I suppose is the best way to describe it. He's on the operating table and he's kind of he's going through this unconscious psychosis, I suppose. And the idea of the game is you've got these different weird and wonderful levels, and they're all sort of I say puzzle-based challenges. Really, there's a bit of action in there, tongue in cheek, but generally it's mostly like really strange scenarios. Like for example, one of the ones is the starting one is where he starts off in like a candy floss machine, and the idea behind the candy floss machine is you've got to collect up bits of candy floss on yourself, and then escape by jumping on the stick that's obviously collecting up the candy floss. And that then takes you out into this other area where this massive great wasp is trying to sting you. And the idea is you've got to drop the candy floss in the right sort of way to give yourself enough time to run all the way to the left of the screen and get the fly swatter. And then you run back to the wasp, because he's got this little orb. I think there's 3 of these orbs that you have to collect throughout the game, and the wasp has one of these orbs, and he drops his orb down and then goes to pick up the candy floss. So you've got to whack the wasp and pick up the orb and then leg it before the wasp stings you. So there's lots more weird and wonderful scenarios. So it's a platformer, isn't it? Really, or sort of like an interactive sort of.
Yeah, it's kind of like I guess it's like Another World or something like that, where it's sort of like a graphical adventure. There are sort of like things you have to do, all reliant really on sort of key presses. I mean, the actual there's a novella that was given with the manuals, like copy protection on this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you have to type in the right word or whatever from whatever.
That's it, and it's it's a badly written novella. I read through it, and it's like real convoluted story. You're Steve, and you're basically given some flu pills by Emily in the post room, who turns out to be a bored demon, who's like creates this nightmare dream world for you, just for a bit of a giggle, really. I didn't realize there was a novella actually. Yeah, I'll share it in the show notes, but it's on Amiga whole. They've got the whole. I mean, it's terribly written. I mean, I was like, oh god, it's not a great, but yeah, it's just really sort of like surreal, and it's got like it talks about he does a trip to the dentist. In the novella, and that's why so much of the game has a lot about gnashing teeth, because you get like the rose garden, don't you? Gnashing teeth. Right. The ball will there's a little girl with a dagger, isn't it? That you'll you do things. I mean, it's done by Herman Serrano and Tony King, but Herman Serrano did the graphics, and that really is the selling point of this, isn't it? It's got amazing, and the sound, David Whittaker music. Yeah,
good soundtrack. Actually, I was going to say, one of the reasons why I picked this game, to be honest, is back in the day, this was possibly the first Amiga game I'd ever seen, because I remember seeing it on that kids' TV show called Motormouth. They used it as like
on ITV,
phone-in dial-up games or whatnot, where you have to keep saying left, 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 or did you use the keypad? I can't remember now.
No, you had to do left, left. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. And somebody would move it.
That's right. Yeah, someone would move it badly for you. Yeah, but also it was on the front cover of one of my favourite CVG magazines that had the PC Engine in and the Street Fighter 1 and all that. It was the cover for that issue as well. The sort of the demon looking thing in the desert area of the game. Yeah.
Oh, that was great. The box art on this, particularly the European box art, the Rainbird box art, was just amazing, isn't it? You got that demon coming through like the doorway, much better than the some of the other artwork that I've seen, like the US one. I had similar things. For me, I did pick it up as a dodgy copy. I'd never owned it. And it was one that I did play it a lot as a kid because I was so enamored by the graphics and the weirdness of it all.
Oh no, it's got so much going for it, hasn't it?
But the trouble is the clunkiness of the controls. And a lot of it, you can tell what they've done wrong. And I've sort of read interviews and things by Herman Serrano, and he's obsessed with animation, and he was like saying he hates short animations, and pretty proudly saying it was like 16 animations for just the walk of of Steve, the individual that you control. But a game player, when they hear 16 frames of animation, says that that's going to be a bad game because it's going to be really slow with the interaction. Like you move right, it's or left, it's probably not going to stop immediately. It's going to.
I think that's one of the problems, isn't it? Because you can't cycle through each animation frame by tapping the joystick. Sometimes he takes 1 pixel forward, and then another time, depending where he is on his animation, he will actually take a step forward, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you've got, in a strange way, I think thematically it works because it is weird dreams. You know, don't you ever have them dreams where like you might be in a fight or something and your punches never seem to do anything, or something like that. It's got that kind of feel, but as a game, it doesn't really help you, does it? Because it makes a lot of the tasks quite difficult to achieve.
Yeah, but this is it. I mean, it's kind of. In a lot of ways, it's like Dragon's Lair, isn't it? Because like going back to the candy floss machine, you have to be standing in the exact place, and you've got to do the duck as the thing's going around. You've got to know that you get candy floss attached to you, and you get enough candy floss attached to you before you do the perfect jump to then be carried out. You get any of that wrong, you're going to see your head get whacked, grow and explode. But I remember getting past the wasp and things as a kid. But to be honest, I remember getting to the English rose garden.
That's right, yeah.
And the girl with the ball,
the
with the dagger.
Yeah, and the ball, yeah.
And that was as far as I got as a kid, if I'm honest. And I was like, I'm done with this. But going back to it, it is amazing graphics. I mean, as I say, Herman Serrano, he also did, you remember the game, the Graham Gooch cricket games and Alan Border and all that fantastic artwork on that. He did that. He did Exile, and he also did some additional art on Chaos Engine.
Oh, right.
Not the main artist. But you know, I mean, I find it so frustrating because if it just had the control levels of something, say like Another World or something like that, it would be a real classic. But they just needed to iron out those controls because, you know, watching long plays and things, you know, because I struggled to get very far in this game.
I hammered this and I just couldn't complete any of the bloody tasks. I almost got to the end of the ball section with the little girl. But I messed it up right at the end.
Yeah, because it's all about standing in the right place. So just to our listeners, you have the ball. So she bounces the ball, and you have to be far enough away, else the ball will just like eat you.
That's right.
Grow teeth and eat you. And then you then have to be sort of patient before you throw the ball. So she moves a bit closer with the dagger. When she gets close enough, you can throw the ball back at her, and then she'll get eaten by the ball.
That's right. Yeah.
But I mean, how are you supposed to know that? And it's like before that, you've got like, you know, sticks you got to pick up to whack the
man-eating roses.
The man-eating roses, and it's but it is. I mean, watching it being played on a long play is the imagination with it is absolutely awesome, and kudos, you know, to those people that can play it, because I just don't know how they had the skills to fight the controls and not lose
many save states.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, interestingly, I wasn't able to get it working, but there is a cheat, but it's really convoluted. You have to get, you know, to the mirror past the wasp. You know, when you go into the magic mirror room, when you walk to the mirror, you have to be right on the edge of before going through the mirror. So you look like really fat in the magic, you know, sort of mirror.
Yep.
You basically, using the help key, you have to spell out a Morse code with the time intervals of SOS, basically, dot, dash, dash. And I couldn't get it working, but I'm assured it works. But it was, you know, that's too complex for me. And
the thing is, really, the bloody, like, having infinite lives doesn't really help you get through each thing, does it?
Well, I guess it stops the frustration, but I mean, watching it, there's some amazing, like, demons and
Headless chicken
designs.
monsters.
I would love to see it sort of like just
tuned up and re-released.
Yeah.
I think it's right for it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It's probably the trouble is it's not gonna win that many people over because it's not. Those sort of
needs
games
a fan remake, doesn't it?
Yeah. That'd probably be the thing. It needs. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Like somebody going back to it and just remastering it, AGA version or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, the magazines were surprisingly more positive than I thought. If I'm honest, basically, it fluctuated about 70%.
Yeah.
Zero magazine, I thought was pretty on point. In summary, it said, all in all, Weird Dreams comprises of stunning graphics, vivid imagination, and very little gameplay, such as life. Yeah. I thought that pretty much sums it up. And Amiga Action gave it 71%.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair. If the game was just slightly tidier in the gameplay department, it probably would have gone in the 80s or early 90s.
Yeah, but this is it. I mean, this could have been, just with a little bit more honing, this could have been as fondly remembered as games like Another World and stuff like that. Because it's got the graphics, the imagination, and everything. It certainly needed infinite lives. If you're going to do trial and rinse and repeat, sort of like trying to work out what's going on. And it is frustrating. I look so hard for a trained version of this game. And there's none. I was looking through, I was thinking, somebody must have trained it, surely.
Must have done. Yeah.
But no, alas, no. So any more you want to say on Weird Dreams? And so, what made you actually choose this as one of your 6? Actually, was it just, as you say, just had those memories of Motor Mouth?
I think because of the memories and stuff, and it was one of the. I think it's probably the first Amiga game I'd ever seen. Back in the day, it just holds a special place, I suppose. As clunky as the gameplay is, I think that like you say, probably watching it on YouTube is probably a better way to go than actually playing it. But back in the day, it was a game I kept going back to and kept trying to get through, but it's just too hard. It's too tough. It's too tough. So,
because you used to have an Atari ST before, didn't you? You didn't see it in the Atari ST days.
No, that's right. Yeah, I did have an Atari ST for about a year because it was sort of like a hand-me-down from my cousins. And then got shot at the ST because I think what was going on is I wanted to get Street Fighter 2 for it and needed that half meg upgrade because it was the original 520 ST. And I think my dad, because he knew some guy around up the estate round from me, his son was selling an Amiga, so probably for the price I got the Amiga for, the bloody extra half meg upgrade probably weren't much cheaper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But you became an Amiga boy, and
for sure,
speaks volumes.
Yeah, for sure. At least I've been on both sides of the fence. I know
true.
What's what.
You swing both ways, is what you're telling me. Yeah. So for our second game, we have Deliverance. No, it's not dueling banjos or squealing piggies, but Deliverance Stormlord 2. And, like Stormlord 1, it was originally an 8-bit game. Stormlord 2 was an 8-bit game as well. Done by Raphael Checo. Yeah, so likewise, this originally came out on the 8-bits, C64, Amstrad and Spectrum in 1990. But in 1992, it saw a 16-bit version done for the Amiga and Atari ST. And this was a 21st century, which is essentially Hewson. And it's an interesting sort of action adventurer with naked ladies and naked fairies who got rescued. So do you want to say why you chose it and what it's about to our listeners?
Yeah, it's a weird one, this, because a lot of people like Gods. I know you're quite a fan of Gods, aren't you, Drisky?
I love Gods, yeah.
I kind of see this as a sort of arcadey alternative to Gods, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah.
I think it's got some nice level variety and stuff, and it's even got like a sort of it's a bit like Myth in that way, that it's got like a shooter as its final level as well.
Yeah, it did bring me a lot of thoughts of like if Myth and Gods had a baby.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But I think this one's got really nice animations and stuff. And
I mean, to describe to our listeners, isn't it? It's a Viking warrior. I don't know what the storyline is of it, but basically he has an axe. He can throw his axe, isn't it? And do lots of moves, and you can open up sort of like wardrobes, isn't it?
That's right, yeah,
and find keys and things.
That's right, because it's kind of like a maze. I suppose the levels aren't split up like Gods. Like Gods has got World 1 and level 1, 2, 3 or whatnot, whereas this is kind of like got 4 levels really, hasn't it? Where each level could be split into 3, but it's just one gigantic level.
Yeah.
And you've got to sort of find the keys to get to the exit and then fight the boss.
How did you come across this game?
I think this came from sort of trying to dig deeper into the Amiga library and not just keep playing the same collection of games that I've pretty much played since owning an Amiga and playing them at the time. So I was sort of delving for sort of things under the radar. And whilst this probably isn't like, I don't know, to a certain degree, I think it's got a decent gameplay loop. I think there's some interesting mechanics in the game which make it a different game to Gods in that way. I think, because you can throw your axe either high or during a jump or low down to the ground. And the other thing you can do, you can sort of wield it like a barbarian, where you can sort of swipe near you. So if any enemies are on top of you, you can sort of swipe them away. But I think, I gave it a go, because I saw a couple of videos on it, and I thought, this is pretty decent, because you could sort of say it's sort of a B tier game, but I think, maybe with a bit more polish, it might have been up there. But I think it's definitely an interesting one, though. I had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, it grew on me, this one.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the graphics are awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. And the enemy designs, I mean, you've got those like beasts swinging from, they pull themselves up onto the other platforms, and when you attack
they got a bit of a xenomorph look to them, haven't they?
Yeah. But I mean, there's some amazing variety, and later on you've got like those sort of like stick creatures that come to life from the trees, and as you say, great variety of levels, brilliant animation, and this did grow on me.
Yeah.
The problems that I had, which I think just stops it from being like a classic or as much as I love with Gods, is I felt the levels were too sprawling. So you're often backtracking, and to the point where
bit of a castle, Metroidvania vibe.
But there wasn't enough pointers to tell you were you going in the right direction or anything like that? You know, when you got sprawling levels, sometimes it was like, and you open a door and then it's, oh bloody hell, I'm back here. You know, but yeah, no, I liked it. I found it very difficult. Simple gameplay mechanics, like just simply getting on the ladder. I found
they could be a bit finicky because of the up and jump, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, and maybe that was it actually, because I didn't hook up my my actual joystick, so I was using an Xbox pad.
Gotcha.
That probably didn't help thinking about it, but and it was like incredibly difficult in sections with so many enemies coming at you that it was so easy to lose lives.
Yeah.
But no, actually, it did grow on me. It did grow on me. I just wish the level. Probably my biggest complaint of it was the level just needed to be a bit tighter.
Yeah, I think you're right there, because I think whilst you know the graphics are nice and stuff, I think that the levels don't really change from, you know, your initial starting to the end. They all pretty much follow the same pattern. You know, get a key, open a door, kill the enemies, find your way round and out of the level. Whereas there's not really sort of any differences. It's all enclosed, like in either caves or in the first level. You're in that sort of building, which actually the first level does look kind of gods-like, doesn't it? That's the most like gods in the game. And
this isn't a fault of the game. This is a fault of not reading the instructions, but it took me ages to realize that with the cabinets, you have to push up to open them, and then you have to push up again to get the key.
Yeah, I was trying to push downwards.
I did the same, trying to push downwards, and but it you know, absolute positive. It's got lots of like Stormlord 1. It's got some fantastic artwork of naked chicks in the background, and I would have loved that as a teenage boy. It's different times, isn't it? You know,
it's a game I wish I'd actually played in, you know, back in the day. But
it's weird that this did totally pass me by. I mean, because it got quite big reviews. I mean, looking at the reviews, it was you know, it was in all the main magazines that I religiously got. So I just don't get why it passed me by. Because they were pretty favourable reviews. I mean, CU Amiga gave it 85%. And they're pretty much saying what we're saying. It doesn't offer anything new in the gameplay stakes, but, you know, the presentation, i.e. the art, you know, easily lifts it above gods, they say, and the like. So they thought it was better than gods. Don't agree with that, but
well, there you go. I think that is down to choice. I personally, I do prefer the look of this game to gods, but then again, they are slightly different games. And it's, you know, if you like gods, you like gods, isn't it? You know,
exactly. If you like Wardener, you know,
you like Wardener. Yeah.
It tells you a lot. I get feisty with defending gods. Amiga format 80%, and you know, pretty much all same things. But even Amiga Power, which like notoriously grumpy, gave it 75%, and they said gold star for visuals, but a C me for the underlying gameplay. All dressed up and nowhere to go. Yeah. Which I mean, they're all sort of saying, I think, the criticisms I think both of us have towards it, which just need a bit more gameplay polish.
Just a little bit more nuance in there,
But, you know, I had a lot more fun when I put the trainer on, and it wasn't like it kept on like dying annoyingly, because then you were less concerned about the controls.
Yeah.
It was frustrating, you know, often like losing a life because you couldn't get on the ladder and you fall off the ladder and suddenly you fall into the enemy. So that was a bit annoying.
The ladder mechanics need a little bit more work, didn't they?
But no, actually, all joking aside, this wasn't a half bad game. Actually, I thought it was pretty.
That's definitely worth a go, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, to our listeners, if you like gods and things, and or you like sort of like your Ghost and Goblins action type platform games, this is well worth your time. And considering it was like converted by a pretty unknown Belgian team did the Amiga version and the ST version. They only did shooters like Ziriax and Zarathustra, which are two games I've never really played, to be honest, before that. It's reasonable sort of like graphics and things, but nice little shooters in their own way. But this was definitely a step up. They you could see the effort and care and love that they were putting towards this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Is there any more you want to sort of say on this? Did you play it all the way through? Did you get to because there's a shooting section at the end as well?
Yeah, the shooting section's cool. pretty all right. It's it's not going to be like the best shooter in the world, but it does it
nice
does give
break
you a
up
chance,
action.
doesn't it?
Yeah. I kind of wish they had that more frequently.
Yeah, kind of like maybe if you did one level platforming.
Yeah, like Pegasus or something like that.
Yeah, Pegasus. That was another game I was going to choose, actually, Pegasus.
Yeah. Oh, well, me and Kingy actually chose it quite recently, actually.
Oh, okay.
Pegasus is a great one. But if they did a mixture, because it's, again, it's quite cool. You're sort of like in a fire-breathing skeleton.
Dragon thing.
A dragon thing. I would recommend this one. I think it deserves a X-Copy That Floppy.
Yeah, there you go.
Just go in. It's a little clunky in the gameplay department, which might put some gamers off. If you come from a console background, you're probably not going to be a fan. It's definitely
because there is some little nuances there that make it quite interesting. Like, for example, if you jump and then as you're about to land, throw the axe. If you're in tight corridors, you actually slide along the ground a little bit, so you can speed up using that and things like that. So there's some interesting nuances to the gameplay for sure, I think.
Were you using an actual joystick?
I was using the keyboard actually because I couldn't be asked to plug my joystick in.
I suspect a keyboard would work really well with this because the same thing with like a joystick because you can control the up and have you.
Yeah.
Because it'd be interesting because I wonder if I would have had a better gameplay experience with if I'd been asked to plug in my Competition Pro rather than just use a pad.
Some
Amiga games. Some Amiga games you do need the joystick,
device,
which is why I do. I mean, I've got all the equipment to do it all, but it's just
I find that with a D-pad, some Amiga games really start to hurt your thumb because of the up for jump and all that sort of lark.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to hold the controller really weird, so you can you can do, or you can repoint, can't you? You can do up. You can turn a button to up to jump.
Yep, for sure.
But I always find it a bit of a faff. But yeah, actually, I wouldn't mind like hooking up my Amiga Mini to play these, and then give it a nice go through.
Give it a crack through there, yeah.
Cool. Any more you want to say on this one, or before
that's
we move
it,
to your third one?
For that.
Yeah. So this is I definitely give this X-Copy Dat Floppy.
There we go. Then it's Drisky's seal of approval. It's not a Wardener.
The Weird Dreams. I don't know. Well, again, actually, with Weird Dreams, I would say it's probably worth a disc, isn't it? A floppy disc.
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so.
It's worth your time, but you might overwrite it later on. Right, okay, so we go on to the third game on the list.
Let's do it, mate, yeah.
So this is Space Hulk. And now Space Hulk has had lots of iterations over the years. This is the first version, which was 1993. And it was made on the Amiga and PC and a variety of things. Atari ST, I think it had one as well. And it was published by Electronic Arts. And to our listeners, I think most of our listeners know about Space Hulk, but Space Hulk basically is a Games Workshop Warhammer 40k board game originally, set, as I say, the Warhammer 40k sort of like in the future. And it's a really cool idea. It's basically Terminator Space Marines. So Space Marines men wearing suits of armour, if you like. A little bit more than that. They're sort of like being, Captain America'd up, isn't it? Injected up in some. Yeah. They're sort of like
all the heavy boys, isn't it? Yeah.
And your Terminators are like even heavier armour, so they're really slow, but they're the absolute pinnacle. They're basically walking tanks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Your Terminator are. And in the game, you have alien xenomorph-like creatures, basically a total rip-off of alien characters, but they're called Gene Stealers here. But they're like pink and blue with like claws.
They've got 4 arms, haven't they?
Yeah, 4 arms, and they sort of like, even with your Terminator armour, if they come at you, you're pretty much dead.
Yep, game over.
It's all about sort of like using long-distance attack and tactics. It's quite a difficult board game to play. And this is a really good representation, really. It sort of mixes it in, doesn't it, with an overhead planning stage. So you can stop the clock, can't you, at any
That's right.
point.
You've got to freeze, but there's a timer on the freeze, so you can't abuse it, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think it gives you just enough time to plan what you want to do. But it means you can't just indefinitely pause and think things over.
Which I hate. I mean, it's good, but I hate that because it's like, I like to like ponder and think what I'm going to do, and you can't do that. And then what you have is the real-time sections of the dungeon crawling. So it's a bit like your Dungeon Master style thing. And but you're going through like these tunnels, and it is very, very tactical, where you do have to like get your sort of like Terminators in the right place, keep an eye on blips coming towards you. And it's really, you make one mistake and it's game over, isn't it, really? So, I mean, that's just a quick synopsis of it. But, I mean, why did you choose this one? What are your memories of this one?
Yeah, so back in the day, probably around 93, my mate had this, and I got an X-Copy off him, because this is definitely an X-Copy Dat Floppy for me.
Yeah.
And I just remember, because at the time, well, I still am now, but at the time I was really, really, really into aliens, and this kind of really does sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? This does kind of sort of bring that atmosphere and that feeling of, the Marines going down to LV-426 in the film, and it kind of just scratches that itch, which a lot of games didn't really do that well back then. I did have the Space Crusade board game, but no bugger would ever play it with me. So we just made up our own games using the geezers and whatnot. But we never played it properly. But I always had, and my cousin always used to do really good paintings of the miniatures.
Oh, he used to paint them. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was really good at it. He used to
I was
sell
terrible
them and stuff.
at it.
It's so difficult. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he done it, because I tried doing it and my eyesight was terrible when I was 18 or 17 when I was trying to do it, and I thought, I don't know how the bloody hell you're doing this. But anyway, you're back to the game. So I don't know, man. It's just, the game has just got such a great blend of. You did describe it the best way, actually, with dungeon crawler, although I didn't really see it as a dungeon crawler back in the day. It kind of uses that similar dungeon crawler mechanic to represent the first person mode. But I don't think this is a game Kingy would hate. I think he'd actually like this game, because I think the tactical side, the sort of map screen where you can plot moves and automate where your Terminators are going to move and stuff. You can get them to move to a position. You can get them to spin on that position to face a specific way, so you don't have to sort of micromanage the actual movement when it's happening, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And it's just there's a right amount of information there to really make this. I mean, I got absolutely lost in this game when doing, playing the games for the show. I got right back into it again, and I was just having a blast playing this. It was real good fun. What about yourself, Dimple? What did you think of it?
I mean, I was big into Warhammer 40k. Still have a soft spot for it, but I was collecting like miniatures and playing the actual Warhammer 40k, like the actual sort of like battle board game itself. The overall Warhammer 40k. I was like you. I was huge into Hero Quest.
Oh yeah,
and also loved Space Crusade, and I loved Space Crusade obviously I had the game, the computer game version by Gremlin.
Oh, you know what? I should probably give that a go, because I'd actually finally get to play the bloody game properly.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's a great version of it, like Hero Quest. It's a great representation, and you're right. You can finally play it. Space Crusade, very, very good. Space Hulk. So when I was very excited when this came, but one of the things, and this is more on me, is that I either like complete turn-based or I like action. Yeah. And I always, it never gelled with me. Cause it's just stressed me out. Cause you can see the timer clock going down and you felt rushed, and to a lot of people, that's great, isn't it? Cause you're building the drama and the excitement. But to me, it just stressed me. I'll be used to this as a commander, is what I'm thinking. Cause, I was just, I get stressed out. And then the other issue I had with it back in the day, and still do, is probably the biggest sim, is particularly on this version. It takes ages to get into it because you have to, thankfully it's got quite good tutorials, but pretty much most of the game is tutorials, it seems, of learning everything. So it takes ages to learn all the nuances and things like that. And then there isn't much variety as you play through. And that's probably my biggest shame with it. And I get, because you only had Gene Stealers in the original Space Hulk. But I kind of miss, like with Space Crusade, you got like a nice eclectic range of monsters to take on. Yeah,
like Chaos Marines and all the lot. Yeah,
and it just could have done with, but not just the characters. I mean, that's one thing, but also missions that you can do. It's usually just like clear the area and go from A to B, isn't it? Or get to A to B. I remember being disappointed with this as a kid. I liked it more than some of the later versions that you got on the 32 bits, like the Sega Saturn had a great version. And
that's funny, because I remember picking up the PlayStation version. I couldn't get on with it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go back to it and give it another try, but
I think it's probably more, I mean, I think it was just, I was more patient.
Yeah.
I had as a teenager, I wasn't that patient, although certain games I was patient with, like RPGs and things, but I had a period when I had my Sega Saturn, I was a bit more patient, and now I'm not patient at all. And that's the trouble I had with this, is going back to it. It was just, it was like going back to school, learning all the, all the nuances of what to do, and I kept on dying. But that's on me rather than the game. I think it's really good. One of the things that was really nice, because I do remember back in the day, this used to be on 3 discs.
That's right.
And it was horrendous disc swapping. It seemed to be every few moments. So you would have been all right with your fancy second disc drive. But for mere mortals such as myself that had only 1 disc drive, it was a right pain in the ass. So to play it today, because you got WHD load and things where you can cut out disc swaps and it all runs a lot smoother. I had quite a bit of fun with this for what it was. I think all the issues were on me rather than,
the game itself.
Itself.
I mean, I think today, if you wanted to go back and play it, I did take a look at the PC version, and of course by 93 the PC was starting to gain the ascendancy, wasn't it? And I think that the Amiga version, it's got a lot of samples and pointers that are missing from the PC version. And the PC version is probably a bit more snappy. You know, when you're in the map screen, sometimes it can be a bit sluggish on the Amiga.
I've not played the PC version, so is that a better one to try?
I think if you were going to play it for the first time, definitely, because it looks a little bit quicker and a little bit less sluggish in the performance. Because like when you've got two squads, because sometimes you get control of two squads, don't you? And you have to switch between them. The map can get really sluggish with that many Terminators on it. But on the PC, it seems to be a bit quicker. But my problem with the PC version is you're going to miss the amazing music that the Amiga version's got. It's got a really eerie, weird and wonderful soundtrack. And that's another reason why I love the game so much.
And it's sort of interesting, like again, like with this, like with some of the reviews, because you really had quite an eclectic range of reviews here. You had really positive ones, like Amiga Action gave it 88%. And they were saying how tense it gets on the Deathwing levels and stuff like that. And, you know, smooth graphics and haunting. And that's one thing I will say, actually, it really captured. One thing that really impressed me as a kid and even now is, you know, the cutscenes with like the speaking Space Marine commander and things like that.
Right,
really well drawn. I mean, it was really nicely done, this. And
all the ancillary graphics and animations are really nice, like the little scenes of the Gene Stealers killing the Terminators and stuff in the intro and whatnot, and the cutscenes when you sort of either finish a certain set of missions and you get all the Terminators walking up and collecting their medals and stuff. And yeah, it's got a really great vibe to it, I think. Yeah.
And, you know, CU Amiga, 87%, really good. Amiga Power even quite liked it for them, you know, 76%. But for Amiga Power, that was quite a good score, really. They didn't. And, you know, I think their main downers reading this, it was the disc swapping, which is what I mentioned earlier.
It is tough with OneDrive.
Yeah. I'm getting drive envy again. Just hearing it. But likewise, they said it was like, you know, over 40 missions. They were saying it's, you know, great graphics and things. But interestingly, Amiga Force. Do you remember Amiga Force? They were a bit cheap and cheerful, magazine, but they really hated it. They gave it 41%.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's not that bad, blimey.
Yeah, well, considering some of the scores they did, they probably weren't getting paid enough by EA at the time. I mean, just reading here, I mean, their concern is that it hadn't been play tested enough, and a bit like me, actually, they didn't like the freeze to real time. They found it a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a bit of a Marmite game in that respect, isn't it? Is that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And I must admit, that's probably, you know, I do like Space Crusade more than Space Hulk.
Yeah.
Not because I think it's, I think a lot of love went into Space Hulk, but I think I just prefer that true turn-based and thinking what you're doing, like you do with a board game.
Yeah.
You know, putting that time limit on everything is a bit stressful for me. Who likes to be supping on the brandy, you know, taking the time, working out what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Any more you want to say about Space Hulk?
No, I think that's it for me, mate. It's definitely an X-Copy that floppy game for me, though, for sure.
Well, it's 3 discs. No, you're right. It's I would, as I say, particularly if you like Warhammer 40K, but also if you like your strategy games and Aliens and things like that. And you want to get that kind of recreation. This is a good game to go to.
Yeah.
And it certainly does make it a lot more tense. The fact that it's limited time on everything. You can't think what you're doing.
Yeah.
Cool. So for the fourth game, we have Sneech. I think that's how you say it. Sneech, which is it came out in 1994, so quite late in the Amiga library, and it was a sort of public domain / shareware, more of a shareware by Daisy Software, and it's basically the Tron Light Cycle game, but with up to 6 players. And it's got some weird sort of Salvador Dali style.
Very surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very surreal. I'm going to pass it over to you to describe it a bit more in detail with it. But so what, if you describe the game itself and then tell us why you chose it as one of your 6.
Yeah. So this is another one of those games I sort of found on sort of searching pilgrimage through the library of the Amiga stuff. And I think what I liked about this one is it's an ECS game for as well for 94 when it came out, so it wasn't AGA specific either. But it's got such a good graphical style for it's essentially a Snake game, isn't it? And like you say, it's like Tron, the cycle stuff. It even references that with sort of sound effects and things, like cars, like motorbikes shooting past the wall every time you turn.
And I suppose there might be some listeners that don't know what we mean when we say Tron cycle stuff. I'm sure you all do, but it's basically overhead, and you have like a trails of light that's limited. So a bit like Worm, a bit like Snake, isn't it, on your on the Nokia phones? The other sort of ways you could describe. And the idea is that you, as time goes on, you grow longer and longer. And the idea is you basically have to, you can block in enemies by sort of turning in front of them, isn't it? And sort of like, sort of boxing them in, as it were.
That's right. Yeah.
And this has even more, where there's a lot of, there's like, keys you can pick up, and you pick up objects, isn't it?
There's lots of power-ups, isn't there?
Lots of power-ups.
Yeah.
And of course, with money, you can upgrade your light cycle, as it were, and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, do you want to explain a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. There's quite a lot going on in this, really, because you can have I think it's up to 10.
6 from what I read. Yeah.
No, but on the main screen, I think you can have 6 players, but you can also add CPU players as well.
I see. So have like.
So I think you can have up to 10 snakes on the board, so to speak.
Yeah.
And before each round, there's like a sort of money economy system in the game where you can buy upgrades before each round starts. So like you can either buy sort of more segments to your snake to make you longer from the start. Then you've got more expensive upgrades like speed, because obviously the faster you go, the easier it is to sort of entrap other players. Then you've got another one like a Hoover. So you don't have to pinpoint the items that appear on the map. You can sort of go near them and it'll hoover them up and stuff like that. But I just thought it was a great, sort of multiplayer PD game, really. That I'd sort of, if you like the game, of course, if you like this style of game, I'd put it in the same sort of bracket as, Alien Fish Finger in terms of the quality of the game. You know what I mean?
Oh, it is. I think, I think this is genuinely the best version of the Tron Light Cycle. That I've played. I mean, it really does add a lot of complexity. I'm like you. I mean, this probably came a little bit late in the day on the Amiga, where I didn't see it back in the day, but I've stumbled across it when, looking at the best PD, public domain or shareware games, and I had a lot of fun with it. And this is likewise really, really good.
Yeah, it's it sort of sucked a lot of my time when playing these games for the show, because I think one of the problems with Sneech is, sort of playing it one player against the CPU. The CPU is kind of
so
sort
good.
of cheating git. You know what I mean? It's got such precision in its movements. And actually, one of the things I forgot to mention, actually, there's this mechanic. I couldn't quite work out how it worked, but like when you go inside yourself, so to speak, in a spiral, usually that would mean you die. because you'd basically run the front of your light cycle into your own sort of lights, light trail. But there's like a mechanic where you can reverse, so the head then becomes the back of the light cycle, or the light trail, sorry, and then you can go backwards from your where your last segment is. You then reverse round and come out of it. So there's all sorts of stuff like that going on, and then of course you got random objects appearing on the map to make it more dangerous and whatnot. And then there's funny ones like there's like a game of tag in the game where one player picks up this specific item and it turns each one of their segments into a bomb, which over time explode, and you got to tag someone else so that they get it, and it's like it's just mental when a lot of them are going really fast and whatnot. It's just a manic game, and I think this would be a great one to play, if you can get sort of like 4 of you together or something, and a couple of people on the keyboard, a couple of people on the joysticks or whatnot, I think it'd be a cracking game to play, on a party situation or whatnot.
I think you're right. I mean, I would love to play it as a multiplayer, because you're right. The difficulty level of that's probably my only complaint to this is that the computer opponents are just too good. They're too perfect, which makes it a bit frustrating.
Yeah, because as soon as you sort of cut one of them off and they start losing segments, they lose one segment and change direction. It's like, no, especially if they're going like really fast, no human would be able to turn that quickly, Exactly, they just do it too perfect. But I mean, this clearly was designed for really human multiplayer, isn't it? Yeah. So, I think this is a great choice. Actually, it's one that the light cycle variant is probably one that I don't go out of my way to play, if I'm honest. But yeah, for what it is, I think very, very good. But I think, like with all these sort of games of this type, it would only really come to its own in the multiplayer.
And I would love, I can imagine like Ant Stream sort of brought it on, but hopefully down the line they'll do like online multiplayer.
Well, actually, I did read somewhere that the guy who made the game, Paul Berkey, he's actually recreating it for the modern audience.
Oh,
with
awesome.
NetPlay and stuff, so that might be another way. I didn't look into it properly, but it's worth having a little check up on that. Yeah,
because that would be awesome. Because he's quite Paul Berkeley did this. I mean, he's quite involved. He was the one that did the Amiga ports of, the Amiga Mac and Atari versions of Simon the Sorcerer 2 and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Converted it from, the
he's
PC
a pretty talented
version.
guy, isn't he? Like, creating this all on his own. He's done a good job.
And he's done things like, a lot of people never heard of, like Foundation. He did that, which is basically kind of like a more serious version of Settlers.
Oh yeah,
it's a real-time strategy, things like that. So yeah, he's quite he's done a lot of cool stuff really, and this is up there. I think it is really, really good. It's a very solid public domain. I love the Salvador Dali weird character at the beginning. It's very strange presentation, but when you get into the game, that sort of apart from sort of like the sound effects, that kind of falls away, that sort of look. But very, very unique little title, I think. Yeah, no, good choice. Yeah, I mean, I think this is another one worth your time, really. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So it's definitely a copy dat floppy. Brilliant. this is a really weird one. This is Alpha Waves. It's known in the US as Continuum, so some of our American listeners, you might know it as this. And my God, it's a weird game to explain. Came out in 1990 on the PC. Amiga didn't see it till 1991, and same as like the ST. Over in Europe, it was published by Infogrames, also developed by Infogrames. Over in America, Data East published it. And how do you describe this? Weird is how I describe it. You're basically, it's you're in a 3D bouncing craft, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the idea is you bounce from floating platform to floating platform to make it to the door that then takes you to the next level. That's how I describe it. I think that's basically it. And it's very abstract in its design, and very French and weird. I mean, do you want to describe it a bit more to our listeners and why you chose this one and memories of it?
Sure. Well, I guess one of the reasons I chose it is because this is essentially probably like the first sort of 3D platforming game, isn't it? I can't think of anything before this which was sort of, I know it's not strictly a platformer, but it is quite platformy.
Yeah.
The game kind of reminds me a little bit of, it gave me Jumping Flash vibes, is probably if anyone remembers Jumping Flash on the PlayStation 1, that was one of the first games.
It kind of reminded me of Blob. Do you remember that on the core as well? Familiar. Yeah, that was pixel artwork, but it uses sort of sprite scaling techniques to do similar gameplay.
Yeah. I think probably in one player mode, it's got limited scope. It probably runs out of steam quite quickly. But what's good about it, I suppose, is you do have a 2-player mode in the game, and it does make it more interesting. I suppose one of its sales points, I suppose, especially back for when it was released, is that you could either play through the game sort of in its arcade mode, where you got time limits and scores and all that sort of lark. And you sort of what you got basically is you got the joystick sort of moves your perspective and your ship's sort of face where it faces, and then the fire button actually propels the ship forwards, like with its little booster.
Yeah.
And literally you do just have to build up the right amount of bounces on each platform to then reach the next platform up. And then the tricky thing is you've got to line up the drive to the open doorway to escape the level. And if you knacker that up, you go steaming down to the floor and you got to start all over again. So it's quite frustrating in that way. But I think that would kind of for an early 3D game of this type, it does, I think back in the day, it definitely hit a lot of good points. But the second mode you've got, which is sort of called the emotion mode or whatnot, it's just lots of different levels with different sort of color schemes to sort of represent different sort of emotional states. So if you're feeling like a bit sort of relaxed or whatever, all the colors are sort of moody in a relaxing way and things like that. So it is a bit of a weird game. I'm not gonna lie. It is one a little bit out of left field. But I suppose one notable sort of tidbit on this game is that Frederick Reynolds did the DOS port.
Yeah.
And he went on to do sort of Alone in the Dark and Little Big Adventure and things like that. And he sort of said that Alpha Waves was his sort of major inspiration for the 3D engine for Alone in the Dark. So
yeah, it sort of taught him how to do 3D.
Yeah. And it's quite a slick engine, isn't it? I know it's very rudimentary, but it there's a lot of those old 3D games on Amiga, like say RoboCop 3 or whatnot. We played the hell out of them back in the day, but you'd probably find it quite difficult to go back and play them now. Do you know what I mean? But I do think this one still kind of holds up if you get into the mechanics and the gameplay.
Yeah. So did you play this back in the day? Did you say?
No, I didn't. This was one I sort of stumbled across again, sort of looking deeper and stuff, looking for something interesting. But I mean, I've got a feeling you probably didn't gel with it, but what was your sort of take on it?
I mean, so I came at this retrospectively as well. I started doing a project of going through all the Amiga games.
Yeah.
I did some books, and so obviously this came under letter A, so I played it for that. I think it's very clever, and I like the visuals and the audio. I thought the surreal visuals and things was pretty cool. The problem I've always had with it is sort of what you hit on, is that I kind of hate, even in like 2D platformers, those sort of like jumps of death where you go right back to the bottom and you got to restart the whole thing. And I suppose that's fundamentally my problem with it. I don't find it that fun.
Yeah.
The inertia annoys me, although I know that's really the whole point of the game. It's so easy to not get the right distance.
Yeah. And you got to watch for your little shadow, haven't you? Yeah, it's quite finicky in that way. Yeah.
But I mean, positives with it, I would say, you're right. 3D engine wise, it's really good. Actually, camera angle wise, because it sort of follows through from behind your craft, it does a lot better job than many other 3D games that came out after.
Because you can look up and down and all sorts, can't you? Yeah, it's got a very good. I think the camera control is pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It gives you a sort of sense of almost like riding a motorcycle in some ways, the way that it sort of leans, the camera leans and things like that. It gives it a real sense of movement.
Yeah. But for me, I just found it sort of ultimately I found it frustrating, and I didn't enjoy the core gameplay
mechanics. Yeah.
But having said that, watching people like on YouTube who clearly know what they're doing, when you see somebody play it, they just seem to be able to go anywhere they want, and that they can time all the jumps. So clearly, they've learned all the nuances, and it's quite impressive, and it looks quite stunning when you watch somebody.
Bit of a flow state type game, isn't it? Yeah. Once you learn it, you can kind of fly through it and show off, so to speak.
Yeah. Whether me, it was like
bounce,
jump to the death. Which, to be fair, on the game Blob, which was like that core game, I was exactly the same. I just it annoyed me for the exact same reasons. Yeah. No, I can see why you chose it. It is interesting. It is very cool and unique visually and audio wise. And I can imagine if you did get good at it, it would be a lot more enjoyable. For me, I wouldn't put this as personally, it wouldn't be an X-Copy Dat Floppy for me. I think I would have played it for a bit and then said, nah, it's
got
not
bored
for
of
me.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things actually that it isn't doing a lot of anything really different once you've gone past, essentially it's just jumping from platform to platform. There's nothing that really mixing things up or anything like that.
Yeah, they're all quite samey, the levels, aren't they? It could have done with some different sort of obstacles, or even some bloody loop-the-loops or anything, some rail grinding or something, anything, just something to add a little bit of different mechanics into the jumping and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
But I love the hyperbole of the box. It's like your passport to a new world, virtual reality. The program explore a labyrinth of waves and light, discover the mechanics and dreams, and challenge the power of the alpha waves. A hallucinating experience, rich in unreal sensations so far unknown. It's like, bloody hell. But I suppose in fairness, for when this came out, this was quite an impressive game. This came out on DOS at least in 1990, and even 1991. It was pretty groundbreaking, really. So kudos to what it does. It was interesting actually. Again, it got like a variety of reviews. Amiga Format gave it 70%. They said very odd, very good to watch. It follows very much the footsteps of Emotion and Vaccine. I quite like Emotion. I quite like that as a puzzle game. That's quite a good one.
I don't think I played that one actually.
Oh, it's quite good. It's
check that out.
Balls on the strings and they bounce together and stuff like that. Amiga Power gave it 60%. They said a charming piece of French fluff. Great to come back to, but far from compulsive and by no means essential. And I think that's quite a good summary, really. And then you had like Amiga Joker gave it 57%. That's a German magazine. and Amiga Power, as a re-release, gave it 33%. So quite an eclectic range there of reviews.
Another Marmite game then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would, yeah. I mean, and I guess the Amiga Power gave it 60, and then later on gave it 33 on that re-release. So I guess by then it was years later.
Yeah, things have
moved on. Years later, things have moved on. But yeah, no, interesting game. Not one that I would suggest to our listeners, watch it first and decide if it's for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And then give it a go. I found it more frustrating than fun. That's how I'd summarize it. Brilliant. Okay, so should we go on to our final game? Or any more you want to say on that? Yeah. So this is another interesting one that you have chosen. It's another late public domain game, 1995. It's one that I personally passed me by back in the day.
Yep.
And to be honest, passed me by. I mean, I hadn't played this until the show.
Yeah, cool. All right, interesting.
And it's called Monsters of Terror. And because it took me ages to find it, because originally I was looking for Monster of Terror.
Yeah, I had trouble finding it actually. It was quite a hard game to track down. The actual one that booted on the Amiga. They were all bloody hard drive installers and stuff.
Yeah,
but I found one in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but I did find. We'll put it in the show notes. There's lazycow.de/monsters has the game. So it's done by the developer.
Oh, that's the one I found actually.
Yeah. And in there you've got the LHA, which to our listeners is like the hard drive version. You've got the ADF. So yeah, you know, they're giving it legitimately, you know, for people to enjoy emulators. Do you want to describe the game itself to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So it's a single screen sort of monster hunter game. You got a variety of mazes. Which different monsters spawn on, and you basically just go around and you're sort of trying to kill them all basically. And I think that the twist that makes the game sort of sing is that it's not just a single player affair. You can get the CPU to fill in for the other players if you want, or you can actually hook up a multi-tap and you know play this 4 players. And I think when you got the 4-player situation going on, it's a proper hectic score chasing game. And what makes it even more annoying is that you can actually shoot each other as well. So you've only got 3 lives, so you can wipe someone out in one map. But I don't know. I just felt that this has got a certain charm. I believe there was a version of this. I think it's called Wizards of War or something on the C64. If I got that right, it's kind of like a remake of a C64 game, which I haven't checked out. I need to check it out. But I think it's called Wizards of War or something like that. Wizard of War.
Yeah. So of course, like Wizards of War was originally an arcade game. I mean, you probably know it from the C64, but it's like a 1980 arcade game, kind of like the answer to Berserk, really.
Yeah.
So if you love the Wizards of War, this appeared on quite a few things. This is a nice update. It's got great graphics, isn't it? It's a nice sort of 3D look and feel to the monsters.
Yeah, it's got a nice style, hasn't it?
Nice style. And I had a lot of fun with this. It's a good update of that Wizard of War, and I can imagine. Did you ever get a chance to play this multiplayer?
No. This is
another one retrospective, or did you know it?
Another retrospective one, mate. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it probably wouldn't have got a look in because me and my mates back sort of like in the late or mid to late 90s, all we played was bloody Sensible Soccer or Sensible World of Soccer in multiplayer. But this would have been a cracking one to have back in the day. Good fun it is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I quite enjoyed it on single player.
Yeah,
for what it was. As I say, the vibes that jumped out at me was definitely like Berserk was the one that I was thinking of, but more mazy.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, it gets more difficult, more monsters, and there's some variety. It doesn't really do that much more different. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I did find after a little while I got a little bit bored. Of course, you got the end of level bosses and things that appear now and again, like big enemies you got to take on.
Yeah, I think basically because it's a PD game, it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, does it? It just brings a nice update to that style of game, and does sort of give it to you in a PD way. It doesn't mean it's bad or anything, or it's underdeveloped. It's just it probably, if it was a AAA game, so to speak, of the day, there probably would have been a few more bells and whistles added to it. But as it is for a PD game, I think it was a pretty good little game for 95.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, the only review I could find was Amiga Joker, which is German magazine, and I use Google Translate. It's kind of cool, actually. I discovered, which was quite cool, that with images, if you go on Google Translate, you can choose images and then put the file of the image of, say, in German, and it will translate it into English, which is really, really cool. Yeah. I didn't realize that you could do stuff like that. I mean, reading the translation, which is never great, obviously, like Google Translate.
Gives you the gist, though, doesn't it?
Gives you the gist. I mean, they found it a little bit boring and repetitive. That was their criticism.
Sure, but I mean, it is aping a game from the 80s, isn't it? Really,
so, it is. But it was. I mean, interestingly, because I think it was like a German game. It was like 20 Deutschmarks. So. It was quite, I think that, I mean, I've not translated it, but I think that's pretty much, that's quite an expensive shareware game.
Yeah, it's close to full price, isn't it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. It was probably more like your budget, like 10 quid or something like that.
Yeah.
15 quid. Yeah, I mean, that's, I suppose, one thing. I mean, it doesn't affect us. From our point of view, it probably affected their score, but from our point of view, it's just a really solid Wizard of War update. Just simple arcade blaster. You're not going to set the world on fire or anything like that, but it's a good distraction for probably about half an hour.
Yeah,
I would say.
You'd bung this on after Sneech or something, wouldn't you? If you was at a few mates round or something, it'd definitely go in at this, wouldn't it?
I would love to try like multiplayer, because I think it would, again, you're right, come to its own. I think we'd end up killing one another because you could kill the other enemies, but, and I'm a bit trigger happy, so I'll probably end up taking out people, not even intentionally. It's an interesting one. I think it's definitely worth a floppy. I suppose actually, because I felt more down on it, but talking through, actually, I'm a bit more positive than I thought, really.
Yeah, that's cool, mate. What was the score? What did they give? What did the Amiga Joker give the score for this one?
58%.
58. Oh, okay, maybe, like you say, the price probably did put them off. And I suppose for 95, it's not the sort of game you was really sort of looking for back then, was it? I'd say at the time, but I think age has retrospectively given it something worth having a look at.
They also complained, so it sounded like, and this might be why, you said you had difficulty getting it running.
Yeah.
One of their complaints was that it needed you had to boot from the hard drive. There's no fast RAM, so you couldn't do it from the hard drive, and it was just all messy.
Yeah,
for them. So that definitely was a factor in what I'm sort of like reading of this translation.
Yep.
I mean, for me, it's solidly built. It's not doing anything particularly different,
groundbreaking,
but sometimes, I mean, I was playing because I just as an aside, but what we do, I chipped say the Amiga Flashback Gold. The 50th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
And I also did it for Charlie, because Charlie loves his Atari.
So is that the Atari Flashback Gold?
Yeah, but the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because basically it's on Amiga Atari Age, and I'm more than happy on Discord to find the links and talk people through. But basically, if you pick it up, you can do a soft mod. There's a little cable, it's a couple of quid cable, that you can plug in the back that lets you put like a memory stick, USB standard memory stick, into where the power would be, and then still run the power. So you're sort of using the power slot. And then basically on Atari Age, there's you can upload your own, but what's even better, there's an individual that has done all the config work and got all the box art.
Oh, brilliant.
And so it integrates perfectly in. So when you bring it up, you've literally got every Atari 2600 game, including all the homebrews.
All in the carousel, so to speak.
All in the carousel.
Yeah.
And of course, what's cool, although the paddle isn't the greatest, but on the device, it's pretty good for your average player or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not. But you can plug in original. It's what do you call it? It's DB9.
The old Mega Drive.
The old Mega Drive.
Yeah.
So you can, like, if you've got like the original paddles, you could plug those in, so you could have it absolutely perfect.
Yep.
But it's quite good because I think when I picked it up, it was like 80 quid, and you had 2 paddles and two joysticks with it. So when you combine it with basically putting every single Atari 2600 game and all the fantastic homebrew games like Halo and all of those, it's an amazing device. My point is, the connection was that is particularly when we chipped Charlie's the other day. We ended up spending, there we are with all the modern games. He's got us he's got us Mario Wonder and all of this, which I've instantly, I picked up for Christmas already. Yes, you got all these modern games. And what did we spend like an hour or so playing? Berserk.
Brilliant.
And what's cool, you got 2 versions. The homebrew version adds all the sound effects, which is the one that, they're coming out with the 2600 Plus.
Oh, yeah.
They're giving that homebrew version as the new release on the 2600 Plus.
Ah, brilliant.
Yeah. So, it just shows you that, old games don't die, and, sometimes the most simplest of games are just as engaging.
Just as fun, aren't they?
Because we were, you're getting that battle of, can I get slightly more score? And I can imagine this game would, like Berserk, would be just like that, sort of
for sure.
You'd end up, even if you weren't playing at the same time, which you probably would, just trying to get that better score than the other person. That competition mode comes into play. In hindsight, despite all my jokes, I think it's quite a good lineup that you did here.
Oh, cool.
I mean, it's nice that because it is so off the beaten path, a lot of these, that it's nice. I do like Voyage of Discoveries. It's not all about and of course the ones that that I have such fond memories of, we tend to have covered.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, we've already covered your cannon fodders and all the other lark. It's just trying to find something interesting and new to talk about, or not new, so to speak, but new to you or me. It just there's a couple in there that obviously did play back in the day, and quite a few that came to having a little search through. Yeah.
So have you got any honourable mentions, or are we saving for another show?
Well, we can mention them, but we can go in more depth if we ever did them in the future. But I suppose I'd give a couple. Then we've got Mega Ball, which is kind of like a mad update of Arkanoid, Mega Ball version 3. I don't know if we've covered that before or not, but that was quite an interesting one. I don't think
we have. Yeah, that's quite a good sort of PD variant. I do like the bat and ball games.
They can be fun, can't they?
Did you ever play Giganoid?
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, that's another bat and ball one that's quite good. That was a commercial release.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But there's quite a few good ones. But fond memories of Giganoid. I thought that was very good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I suppose another one I'll go for is Gravity Force 2, which is another sort of multiplayer only game. You can only really play. It's a 2-player game, I think, if I remember correctly. It's literally sort of thrust, but deathmatch.
Yeah.
And it's got quite a cool gameplay there. You've got 2 players. It's quite good fun if you can handle the inertia, which I think helps make it more funny, because you're trying to drive around like a nutter with the sort of thrust inertia. It adds a bit of fun to it. And I'll go for one more, Benefactor.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know whether you've covered on an Amiga episode before, but that's a kind of, what would you call it? It's like a
sort of Lemmings, isn't it?
Lemmingsy platformer,
zoomed out platformer.
Yeah, very small little sprites, but the gameplay's solid, and it's a real little gem, that one. I think one of the late games. Yeah. How about yourself, mate? Have you got any mentions?
Yeah, well, I suppose, I was thinking of some of the 6, but the trouble is we have covered them, but just to shout, because I always want to shout them from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Woody's World, I think, is an amazing. We have covered it, Kingy and me. I think it's one of the best platform games on the Amiga, and nobody ever talks about it. So, have you ever heard of it? Or
is that did that come out on the CD32?
No.
It's not that one. I'm not thinking of that one. Then no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've played that one. Then Woody's World, mate.
It's one thing I really want to roll up my sleeves with. Actually, is because obviously, just to shout out, YouTube's getting stronger. There are more subscribers each day.
Yeah, it's really working the old video versions of the podcast.
I think it really does elevate it, doesn't it? It's really definitely good. So to our listeners, if you're listening on the audio podcast, have a look on the show notes and watch the video one if if you so want to. We know that I think probably about 1% of our listeners actually watch the videos, or different in terms of volumes of what we get, which is fine, because I totally get, because I'm the same way with podcasts. As life is busy and it's difficult to be looking at a screen.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is, I do think equally it's kind of cool. I mean, it's a hell of a lot more work for us, but it's kind of cool seeing the footage. Just games.
For example, Paul, like when I first sort of watched one of them, because I hadn't delved in, but you and Kingy did the October Spooktacular homebrew episode, and being able to see the actual games because you'd never seen them before, it really, really brought that show to life for me. I really enjoyed sitting there watching that one. It was a really good one to watch, for sure.
No, it's and likewise, I think that's pretty cool. But I think you'll like Woody's World. One of the things, my point is, I keep going off sidetrack, but the reason with YouTube, I've worked out behind the scenes my 100 favorite Amiga platformers. Yes, there are that many, and the rest, and I've had to cut loads off. And I really want to roll up my sleeves and do probably over split between several videos.
Yep.
Do like a top 100, because the Amiga has so many hidden gems, and in all genres really, but particularly the platformers. There's so many cool little. Does Arabian
Nights feature in your top 100?
Oh, of course. But Woody's World is a really, really solid. I genuinely think it's one of the best. Just very polished. Done by I think I'm going from memory here. I'm probably getting it wrong, but it's done by that the Cracking House Vision, whatever it is. But they did some games.
Oh, okay, a bit like Dice or whatever you. Digital Illusions.
The other one I want to shout out is these ones we have covered, but I just love shouting out. Kingy hated this game, but it's BAT 2, Bureau of, I can't remember what it stands for, but basically it's a sort of like sci-fi RPG. It's another French game. The first one's very, very good. The second, but it's sort of, I love futuristic settings with things rather than, and it mixes in some sort of action games, but it just blew my mind as a kid because it's great. It's done like comic book panel visions. But you've got animated characters walking past on it as well, and I felt like I was exploring a new world. I mean, going back to it, you see all the nuts and bolts, but one of my dreams is that Ubisoft do a remaster and recreate that world. I think it would be cool. I guess it's a bit like Cyberpunk of today, isn't it?
I was going to say, I stumbled across that recently, actually. It looks like quite a cool game, that Cyberpunk.
I didn't get on with it personally, but maybe I need to. Well, I need to go back to it. I think maybe because when I tried it, it had a lot of bugs and things.
But
that's cool. And the last one I would, there's loads you could shout out, but the other one that I have a real soft spot, and Kingy thought this was an average game, but I love it. It was Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. I love the music on it. It is a by the numbers platform game, but it is a bit annoying. You play Scrappy-Doo and Scooby-Doo. Yeah. But just that music alone just gets my nostalgia ticking. Just so many happy memories. Is there any others you want to shout out?
I'll go for one. One I did wanted to add to the show, but we've covered it before. Is a Psygnosis game, Walker. Yeah, where you sort of control that robotic chicken-looking craft, and you got to shoot all the little dudes that come and try and destroy you. I think this. I think that's the first time I can remember like really using the keyboard and mouse in a sort of really good way. Yeah. Obviously, use the mouse to aim and lock onto the enemies, and the keyboard you use to sort of walk the mad robotic chicken backwards and forwards. But it's a game you can kind of play two player, one person doing the shooting and one person doing that.
Of course it was boring for the person that was the pilot. It sounded exciting until you realise you're just pressing forward and back.
And backwards, Teamwork makes the dream work though, doesn't it, mate?
But it's a fun little game, isn't it?
Brilliant game. I loved that back in the day. Played the hell out of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll mention one other one actually. Just because you were talking about early 3D, Hunter. That's one that we need to cover. Have you ever played that one?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, Hunter was amazing. It was basically, back in the day, it was amazing. I've not gone back
to check.
To check. But basically, it was like a totally open world, full 3D game.
All right.
And you could literally, it's a bit like how you play Grand Theft, how I play Grand Theft Auto today. So you'd ignore all the storyline of it, and you just it was like a sandbox mess about. I mean, there was like vehicles in the game you could get in a helicopter, fly around, or
brilliant,
or cycle, and quite ahead of its time, really. Yeah,
that sounds pretty decent.
Yeah. So many, and that's one I do love with the Amiga. There's so many unique games, and
that's it, isn't it?
And I don't know, when I say Amiga, a lot of these came out on Atari ST as well.
Yeah, sure.
But that era, Amiga, Atari ST era, it really was the Wild West, wasn't it? Still,
yeah, it was sort of those computers were still sort of carrying the torch from the 8-bit days, weren't they? Whereas the consoles started going off into sort of real sort of polished and sort of almost like carbon copies of each other, weren't they? Whereas on sort of the Amiga and ST, you get more eclectic mixes of all different types of games, and some of them vary in quality, but they're experiences you couldn't get on the console and stuff like that, weren't they? Yeah.
No, it's many happy memories, and it's difficult, isn't it? 'Cause I would love to do an RPG one, but it's just in the mod, like an episode.
Yeah.
Some of the Amiga RPGs, because I do love them, but it's having the time with adult life. To play some of these games. I would love just another one shout out, Mega Traveller 2. So many fond memories of that one. Another futuristic theme. I mean, there's definitely I definitely am more drawn towards the futuristic style. Yeah, really, really good. That had like complete character creation, very, very cool. But I just don't think I've got the patience anymore to play those sort of games.
No, it's very difficult, isn't it, to go back to the old RPGs, really, because they're a massive time sink, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you could kind of get a sense of what they were doing if you say maybe played it for an hour and then skip through a YouTube video to see what happens in the story, but you're not really going to
give doing a service of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you really need to throw a good few days of solid play. And let's be honest, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you as it is for most of our listeners, is that, you got to be, we just don't have that level of time. Part of the reason I think we love retro games is because we don't have the time. Because I find the same thing with, I've still not played Starfield, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'd be all over that futuristic RPG. Thank you very much. I would be playing that to death as a kid.
Yep.
I look at it now and I think, 100 plus hours or,
mate,
I can't do that. Mrs. would like chuck me in the bin if I did that. I can't even, I mean, it's going back to the films I've been watching. It's become a bit of a running joke that, like on the VR, I've not finished one without, I've gone back to finish it, but not in one sitting. Not because of the battery, but because there's either Mira, my granddaughter's come in and I've got to sort her out. Suddenly help with doing the dinner or something like that, or there's have to go out for some errand or whatever.
It's starting to feel more and more like that it's not until we retire that we're going to be able to go back, if our eyesight's still any good, and play these bloody games, like these longer games.
But you say we retire. I mean, I look with my dad and other people retire, and they're still getting nagged by their missus. They're still having to like do the garden and all of this. So I don't think we'll ever have a time.
No, you're probably right, mate. Probably right.
Which is part of the reason, actually, why I did sell off, apart from the ones personally, a lot of my collection, because I just realised, am I realistically, with a lot of these games that I don't have the first-hand affinity with, am I really ever going to get around to playing some of these? I mean, maybe I will through emulation because it's easier. But, going back to some of these on real hardware, would I really do it? Yeah.
No, I'm the same, mate. I mean, I've been saying it for a while. I've been thinking about selling my collection, but as the time passes, I'm thinking more and more like, really, it's just going to sit in those boxes, and it's lovely to have them and dip into them, but really the utility of them is just, it's not there anymore, really. Like you say, like, for example, with like the PlayStation 1 now, there's literally no point having an original PS1, not unless you really, really want to experience it how it was back in the day. But if you plug in a PlayStation 4 pad or something via Bluetooth or whatnot into your PC and launch bloody DuckStation, you're going to get a far better experience out of most of the games in that library, for example. Now, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's the same with most now, isn't it? PS2 is the same, and there are some games which I've noticed with PS2 which still don't emulate.
Still not quite there, is it?
Still there. Nitro Bike is one that frustratingly I can't get working quite right. It's like clipping all over the place, but they'll get there eventually. You're right. I think it's the quality. I found that a lot with the N64 as well. I tend, whereas before it used to be that it didn't emulate very well at all, and therefore I used to Everdrive.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, you can plug in the actual N64 controller through an adapter.
Yeah.
And it looks so much better. Playing it on like a Project N64 or whichever one, ever variant. Yeah, definitely a different world, and it's a good world, really. Any more you want to say, or before we wrap things up?
No, I think that's it, mate. It's been nice to do another one of these with you. Maybe we'll come back with a volume 3. We could either you pick the games, or we'll do it.
I'll pick the games, and then you can rib my selection.
All right, we'll do that then.
I'll probably go through all the games that Kiggy hated in the past. See if I can find some love for them.
Some bugger who like it. So everyone's got their own Sentinel, haven't they? Wardener's mine.
Yeah. I'll never understand Sentinel. It doesn't matter how many times Kiggy explains it. Awesome. Well, thank you, boys and girls, to our listeners. Hope you've enjoyed. We'd love to hear, not just what you thought of these games. Reach out to us on Discord or YouTube if you're watching on there. Put in your comments. Or Twitter. There's a whole variety of ways of getting hold of us. Probably Discord's the best way because there's a great community on there with all the sort of like chatting. And let's hear, what you thought of these games. Did you find any hidden gems from the one we mentioned? And also perhaps give suggestions of what 6 you would have chosen. I'd be really interested.
Yeah, what's your own X-Copy Dat Floppy compilation?
Yeah, because that's one thing I've discovered, and this is why it's great, not just always having Kiggy and me on, like having you on here, Ric, is I think it's so important to get other experiences and views. And that's why I love hearing from our listeners as well, because, all of us, we couldn't, we can't play everything. It's an amazing library on the Amiga and ST. So yeah,
always open to new suggestions.
Yeah, always for new suggestions. That's one thing I could never understand when some people, they'll say, "Oh, never played it," and for me that's exciting. For me it's not, "Oh, I've never played it, so I'm not going to try it." For me, it's like, I've never played it. This is great. A new game that I've never played.
Yeah. I'd liken it in some ways to, music. Like, just because a band released an album, 30, 40 years ago doesn't mean that you can't discover it and then sort of fall in love with it and it become a new favorite in your sort of music collection. You know what I mean? It's a similar sort of thing with these games, isn't it?
Yeah, or even like with films, it's the same thing, because films have come on leaps and bounds. Yes, modern films might look a lot better, like video games, but that doesn't mean a Charlie Chaplin film is just as good as a modern, probably even better.
Probably better, to be honest, mate. I can't stand modern cinema now. It's died a death for me.
It is. Yeah, it is a shame with it all.
They're not events anymore, is it? Do you remember like when Batman came out? I know we were young and things were new, but like, I don't know. I don't get excited for cinema anymore. It's really lost it. There's the odd occasional one, isn't there, that crops up? But there's generally I've found that the modern cinema's kind of died a death.
It's true. There's been times when I've been just itching to get out of the house and just watch a film. And in fact, actually, with sorry, we do go on tangents, but with Uber, I got 2 free tickets I had to use in the month, and I didn't use them because I couldn't find anything that I wanted to watch.
Yeah. Another bloody Marvel film or some crap. Yeah.
I mean, actually, just as Marvel, because I've been part of with the VR thing. I've been rewatching from the beginning. Of Marvel. And the early ones are really good, but my God, they've gone off the rails and stuff. That's a different topic.
for sure.
Anyway, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed, and reach out on Discord, give our YouTube a try, and but particularly on Discord, because it's a great community, and you're more than welcome to join in on the fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, until next time, keep it retro.